Hi, I am your host, Henry Clavo, CEO and founder of Orlando Insight Group. Each episode, we dive into real conversations with technology leaders, innovators, and experts who are shaping the future of IT, data, and cybersecurity. Our goal is simple to give you practical insights, real world strategies, and expert perspectives that you can use to drive smarter decisions and stronger results for your business. Thank you for joining us. We have a special guest today. Natalia Kuklova is a senior data science and AI leader with more than a decade of experience building enterprise grade analytics, machine learning, and decision intelligence systems. She partners with large organizations, particularly in highly regulated industries, to design scalable AI data strategies that drive measurable business impact. Throughout her career, Natalia has led complex initiatives spanning risk, product, analytics, experimentations, and enterprise AI transformations. She works closely with executive teams to bridge the gap between models, decisions, helping organizations move from insights to sustained competitive advantage. Natalia is also a contributor to the Forbes Technology Council, where she writes about AI strategies, decision intelligence, governance, and the evolving future of work. On this episode of Orlando Insights, we will explore what truly takes to turn data into durable decisions at scale. Welcome, Natalia. I'm happy that you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Let's get started. You worked at the intersections of product analytics, risk, and executive decision making. How do you define the decisions intelligence in practice and not theory?
Right. So decision intelligence is the layer basically between the C-suite level strategy
Mm.
and the business line execution. So it's this middle layer which connects data to action. So what happens kind of in the background, there's a lot of data that people mine, producing insights, recommendations. They do present them to the business line who actually use them to go and execute on the strategy that
Mm.
C-level gave them.
Wow. And when and how long you been doing this, and how do you develop this muscle to know um, this without theory?
Yeah, great question. So just by trial and error.
Yeah, I think if we're honest, I think we all are we're in that environment where we're trying to solve each person's use cases and issues, and we'll just try our best to answer that question for them or get close to it. So that makes sense. And in regular environments, decisions often have real downside risk. How do you structure analytics so leaders trusted them enough to act?
So it all starts with the right data. So you need to make sure your data is correct before you start analyzing and then presenting your recommendations. So
Mm,
what usually happens in practice, you would reconcile your data to the general ledger. You actually involve the business lines to opine on the data and the insights that you see. And then basically, if you involve them earlier in the process, they trust you, they trust the process, they see what you've done, and then the recommendations kind of just a natural step where they believe them and they trust them.
Is it just you, or do you have a team that helps you summarize this information? How does that process look like
Right.
in your organization?
So at my prior work, I actually had a team who helped me to kind of to execute and deliver the insights and recommendations to the business lines.
Mhm. Oh, okay, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Can you share an example where better data wasn't a problem, but decision clarity was?
So it's all comes down to the ownership. So in one specific case, during it's my one of the prior companies where I worked at. The business owner requested us to create a complex recommendation system, which we
Mhm.
did. But midway, as we designed it, he moved on within the organization to manage another vertical. So we kind of lost that, executive sponsorship. There was a person who kind of took over the vertical, but he wasn't really interested in what we're building because he
Mm,
wasn't a requester. So at the end, we kind of had to put the project on hold. So the
mhm.
data was right. It just kind of lost, as I mentioned, executive sponsorship and support. But again, we regained kind of and started moving on the project again when there were like some additional changes in the organization.
Oh, that makes sense. I
Mhm.
know banking, there's some projects that they just let go out of nowhere. At the same time, you lose funding or you lose people that were essentially the program. uh,
Mhm.
Move on. I guess in your case, you just adapt and move on to the next project and
Right. I
don't.
think, we never had like a lack of projects to work on. So there was actually a lack of interest to specific things we did. We would prefer to put it on hold and invest our energy into something that, people were interested to get the results. So we just focus on a different project basically until the time is right. Just waiting for the perfect timing sometimes is the best, course of action.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And this next question reminds me of me working with stakeholders, and I had a conversation earlier with this gentleman about dashboards and gather requirements.
Mhm.
What signals tell you that our organization is actually making better decisions and not just producing some dashboards? Yeah.
Right. Great question too. So what happens is you might have a lot of recommendations, but if none of them lead to action, it's kind of effort wasted. So for me, you actually need to implement recommendation to actions ratio, which
Mm,
kind of will show you, right? You might do a lot of research, produce a lot of dashboards. Dashboards are one thing. It's like it should never be a dashboard. It should be a dashboard and the story behind that dashboard with the recommendations, so business line can take, can see those, right? Opine on them, and move on and do the action, make the action. So that ratio is quite helpful. So if at the end of the year you like recommended a lot, you do track, right, what you're recommending to what business lines. But at
mm.
the end, when you talk to business lines and they kind of tell you like they implemented nothing, that's basically a red flag. Like you need to change your strategy, how you work with the business lines.
That makes sense. And now with the integration of AI, now people are arguing: do we need dashboards, or what don't we have an AI agent do it for us, or can it be integrated with dashboards to help answer or provide insights that we didn't know about?
So I would say you should be cautious if you do use your AI in implementing your dashboards.
Mhm.
So there should be human in the loop. There should be someone who oversees what AI is doing. So again, yes, it can be part of the process, but again, it cannot be, the only process where you just blindly rely. Someone should be checking your data and your insights and whatever AI gives you. And we had multiple. I mean, we'll discuss probably later. I will give you more examples.
Yeah. You built and led enterprise data science through multiple mergers. What
Mm-hmm.
breaks first in data organizations during growth or consolidations?
Mm-hmm.
And
So, yeah.
no, I was going to say that you work in banking. I'm sure you've been through a lot.
Yes, went personally through multiple mergers in my past life. So I would say that nothing actually breaks on day one.
Mm.
So because again, you had two independent entities, right? Doing the business, and they were regulated, right? They would produce the reporting, do everything else. So on day one, actually nothing fails. Two organizations can continue to operate the way they are, but at some point, right, there's a quarterly reporting that has to be completed. So where the challenge begins when you have, again, two similar core system maybe that your company is using, right? You need to migrate your clients or like merge those systems or actually convert, change them, kind of retire one, right, and convert and move to another one. So in those instances, the challenge for the team begins, for the data teams especially, because you need to basically unify the data dictionaries, right?
Mm.
Some legacy definitions and the way the business was done might not be actually the one which the new combined organization will follow. So there is usually like new policies, new procedures, right? New ways to operate. So some decisions get revised, what historically was done, so you have like actually a better process. So that's the challenge where you just spend a little more time kind of making sure what you do right with your data. I would say like in one instance, well, actually, I think in any merger, right, you do care about your legacy data.
Yeah.
So, and there is a certain way, like other, different legacy companies try to, implement their data warehouse and stuff. So there's a lot of like behind the scenes work that needs to be done if you want to feed your models with your historical data. So you need to combine those two different data feeds behind the scenes so they feed the model and kind of, that historical trend data is being used. So that's like the extra work and extra challenge.
I'm sure you experienced some pushback, some silos, and politics.
Yes, it does happen. But again, as the new organization, wants to move forward and do the right thing, like those over time, they get adjusted, so everything actually, is fine in the end.
Okay. How did governance evolve as AI and ML use cases move closer to customer experience and revenue?
hmm So I would say the traditional ML, right? It was
Mm,
always kind of well governed, especially in the regulated environments. So traditional ML models are always used. So it's the forecasting that goes in the financial statements and all that stuff. So we would have the model risk management, right? You need to validate your data. You'll have external, internal auditors basically looking at your processes. So those guardrails and risk controls, they're already in place.
mm,
With AI, now we have a different AI policy dedicated to AI specifically because there's more third-party risk. You need to make sure the data doesn't leave your firewall, and if it does, like it's not used, not in the right way.
mm.
So basically, it just becomes the risk controls become larger and they're like more expanded.
And my experience working with clients in the past, they always fear shadow AI.
hmm
Is there any? Have you ever encountered those? And if you did, how did you prevent them from using their own closed-end models to protect their org's information?
So we actually use the models, LLMs within our firewall, so the data won't leave
Mm,
the company. So we kind of had the proper guardrails, making sure like everything stays where it needs to stay. So there's no data leakage anywhere.
okay.
hmm
And what trade-offs did you have to make between speed, control, and model risk, and which ones mattered the most, especially in your past?
So in my past, so I would say in the regulated again environments, risk and controls are more important than speed. So again, there's like multiple process reviews, right? Multiple risk people, credit people, finance people. Like there's many teams that are involved in the process. So speed comes next or last, I would say. I mean, the risk and control, because you have actually, remember, you will have regulators like
Mm,
OCC or whoever, like your, regulator is coming, reviewing your process. So you can lose trust, pretty quickly.
mm,
So you need to ensure that you can show like what's being done, right? And how it's been done, how the data was validated, who checked it, right? What's the
mm,
basically if something like goes wrong with the data, who is the next person who is reviewing? What's the escalation path? So like you need to show your thinking, your reasoning, and then the outputs and be able to explain those. So speed is but again, like if you do need to produce something, right? By certain due date, yes, you try to meet the deadline, obviously, and you speed up.
mm.
But skin controls are the most important ones.
Well, that reminds me, in a project, we built an ETL process, but it failed social security protocols, and it had
Right,
to be shut down for a couple of months until they can start.
right.
The,
hmm
so, so yeah, you're right. Especially in banking, you cannot play with those rules.
Yep.
And from your experience, where do regular enterprise over rotate on governance, and where do they underinvest?
hmm So I would say over rotation is on the documentation and a number of reviews. So sometimes you might have multiple like internal audit reviews where different people ask you same question and they want to look at what you did in, not that they are hoping to find the different answer every time you respond, but just, making sure what you do from different angles is the right thing to do. So you need to be able to show them, right, what you do. So there is sometimes it's all has to be done, like it cannot be skipped. At the same time, that's where like multiple model documentation reviews happen. That's where you spend kind of more time. I would say under investing would be probably in talent, especially with the latest AI tools. So that's kind of one area I would personally improve.
What I guess what tools are you using, or what are your favorites now that you're investing in yourself and your company?
So I don't want to actually mention any tools. There's multiple and they all have limitations. So for me, it depends on the use case and what you're trying to accomplish so that you can find the right tool that works.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was doing the research. Gemini Pro is currently on the lead to be a not reliable, but a more powerful model with reasoning skills.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can tell you I use personally multiple, and
Yeah.
all of them work for certain tasks, and some of them like still need improvement, regardless what the marketing campaign says.
My least favorite is Claude. It's very verbose. So many texts. Like, who has the time?
It's
Um,
really good. I hear you.
how did you keep data science tied to measurable business outcomes instead of becoming a research function?
Mm-hmm. So I would say, well, I would usually ask actually the business lines what they planning to do with the information I provide. So, or my team provides, right? So if it's, they will tell me like, oh, just want to know, well, that's great, but it's great to know for me because I just, providing information, doing the research, it won't lead to the action, right?
Mm.
So one thing I actually done on a quarterly basis, I had a special kind of meeting scheduled with the C-suite level executives,
Mhm.
where I would tell that recommendation to action ratio, and I would show them like what projects my team completed and what actions business line took. And again, I was lucky enough; I had great business line, a bit great. Relationships with the business lines where they actually would notify me by email or just through like phone conversation, right? Or we implemented what you suggested, right? We're doing this, and this is like how customer experience improved, or like we migrated the product from the old one to the new one, so we're doing it. At the same time, I would follow up to business lines because everyone is getting busy. So in like 3 to 6 months period, like, how are you guys doing, right? Did it help? So I actually would ask questions. What did you do, right? Based on that information. So that's kind of, you stay basically close to the business line. They do appreciate what you give them. So at the end, like it works out great.
Not only that, you build a relationship and then you
Yeah.
help them to a high standard to meet.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Right. Right.
talk.
Yeah. It's like teamwork. So it just, yeah.
And yeah, you get grow closer as more time passes with your teammates. You grow closer, and trust begins to build. So it becomes a natural part of
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
In product analytics, experimentation is often positioned as the answer, but it's not always feasible. How did you decide when to test versus when to commit?
Mm-hmm. It all depends how much time you have. And again, it depends on the use case. So something small and you kind of have plenty of time, and business line tells you like, we find we kind of planning to do like, broader, change rate, like by the year end, and it's March, then you have time to do that, basically test. In some instances, if there's like a product change and, I don't know, maybe you kind of converting your clients from one system to another, right? And they have to move to a different product. So test is actually not proper in that instance. So you would kind of do like larger scale. And there's some analytics that you can still do to see how your clients will be affected. So in that instance, you just, kind of go into what you need to do.
And now this leads me to my very interesting question: A/B testing. Like, what is the biggest misconception leaders have about A/B testing and experimentation at scale?
I think it's just understanding how like A/B testing works in general. So what I've seen in the past in one of the prior companies, people would actually come. In one instance, they came to us and they said, "Well, we segmented clients. We just want to see how they perform." And when you ask how did you do it, it was like, I don't know, deposit balance was above X. So that's not the right way to do A/B testing. So my job was to educate. Next time you come, we kind of found the workaround and satisfied the requirements and gave them what they needed. But again, there's some education that you come to us first, to your data scientists, product people, right, to make sure like the experiment is designed the right way. So that's what I've seen.
Now that we have access to AI, people can vibe code, can find the answers. Does the person still needs to be trained, or they're gonna outsource their knowledge to the AI and not, like you said, not know what to do? They just have to refer back to
I think the biggest challenge, like everyone should be using AI today, right? To your
it.
point, you mentioned Claude, whatever it is, Gemini, like ChatGPT. So I think the best learning process is actually to try the tool and see what it can do. Yes, you can take certain free classes that are plenty and available online. To me, if you're actually deciding what the business should do, I would recommend to have an expert or someone who actually understands how those models work and what they do and their limitations. And then that person can advise and kind of guide you, right? And do hand holding, like you should be using this way and not the other way. What I've seen in the past, people will implement LLM models, but they cannot explain the output. And then, you have regulators coming and asking you, and if you cannot explain what LLM did, then it's sort of, you lose trust and why would you even start using it, right? So you kind of should be cautious there.
Oh no, I agree, especially banking. Yeah, it's very easy to use, but if you don't study it or understand it, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance accountability for outcomes with the reality that not every experiment wins?
So I don't think every experiment needs to win necessarily. So sometimes it's just the data collection to me, right? If it fails or, you just get the results you didn't expect, that's the information. It actually will guide you in the future, right? What to do and what not to do. But again, if there's some hypotheses and assumptions, you kind of need to talk to your business line and see, what they do, why they think this certain way. So to me, again, it all comes down to data collection. We learned something, right, from doing this, even if it failed or didn't fail.
And you deployed machine learning across customer behavior, risk, and operations. Where have you seen the most durable value, pre-LLM and LLM? Right?
So I would say now, the most durable, it goes back to the financial reporting, regulatory reporting, because again, there's this quarterly estimates they have to go on your balance sheet, which affect your earnings per share. So those are scheduled, right? There's nothing you can do. You cannot skip quarterly reports, same way as you cannot skip, filing your tax return, right? Mm-hmm. So you have to meet the deadline and produce those estimates that fit financial statements. Those to me are the most durable. So they are using mostly traditional ML today. So those are still continue to be, and you have to perform those on a quarterly basis. With LLMs, again, you use them for business lines more, for managing your business. But again, business line changes their strategy on a quarterly basis. And now with AI, you have to do it faster because everything is changing so fast. So for those, is it durable? Probably not as durable, right? So you might do something for 6 months, they change it, it will be on hold, like that recommender system I kind of mentioned. So again, regulatory reporting, financial reporting, all that stuff that must be produced, that's the most durable.
Got it. And this is very interesting. I didn't know that you applied LLMs for a contact center. So basically, you led LLM-based analysis of contact center transcripts. What surprised you the most when you were applying this technology in the banking regular environment?
So in that specific project, what was interesting, LLM would give you the common trend. It will provide the summary, right? What's happening and what people kind of saying and what's happening. At the same time, when you start looking actually row by row, if we go into that detail, the categorization of specific, row, right, won't be aligned with, with how you as a human review it. So what surprised me the most, I couldn't trust what LLM gave me. So actually, when we did kind of individual review and randomly tested the responses, it was kind of fine, but we would disagree with certain things. On a broader scale, right, when you accumulate the data, the LLM was fine, showing 1, 2, 3 things you need to fix. So they were kind of aligned. But the issue becomes if you have regulatory model or fraud model or some other model where that specific role actually fits and associated with the customer. So if it was misclassified, then you're feeding the wrong data and the wrong flank to your model. So that actually creates the model risk, and it can be biased at the same time. So you have to be really cautious, and you have to have human in the loop who actually reviews what LLM does. So if you need just, management wants to know what's happening, just kind of summary, 30,000, view, yeah, you can use it. But if it becomes the detail where it feeds the model, that's where you need to be extra cautious.
and you have somebody implement the guardrails and then
Yeah,
review. So you have a step-by-step process to make sure that,
yeah, that's accurate. Yeah.
yeah. Where do LLMs not belong yet, despite the hype?
So all the tools you mentioned before, so I think they all fail today with working with the structured data.
Hmm.
So just my own like personal project I was working on, just feeding, standards PDFs with, quite nicely, table shown. It's actually failed to mine the data and produce the table. So I can use it like in the process. So structured data is a challenge. And surprisingly, ChatGPT failed, Gemini failed. Then I think Excel has AI, where Gemini suggested, oh, because I cannot do it properly, go try Excel AI, which actually failed even more compared to the other two.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm still waiting when it's going to improve. There is some visual model right underneath, but they're not working as if you start looking. Again, the issue becomes you kind of feed, and the first 5 rows identified would be the right data. The rest will be assumed, some ratio used, how something like, growth rates and stuff. So you actually cannot trust it. Once you go deep and once you actually scale it or hoping or thinking that it's doing the right thing, actually trusting and having human in the loop is the big thing too.
Mhm. I know there's so many in stories you hear AI models failing or projects failing or not bringing ROI. How do you evaluate whether an AI use case is solving a business problem or just demonstrating technical capabilities?
Mm-hmm. So I am big on the ROI, return on investment. So you shouldn't be doing any use case if you cannot calculate in advance or like, at least some expected ROI that you're willing to get. So sometimes, yes, it can be like shiny tool that you're implementing, but if there's no ROI and the bottom line is not affected, there's no point to waste resources unless you want to look cool and like, we're using it. So in that instance, yeah, just, kind of just the tool to show capability, not necessarily, driving your ROI.
For our audience and
Mhm.
data business and our customers, they want to know it's hard to measure ROI. What would be how you measure ROI for a model that is
So,
invested?
mhm. Model is the model. It's just by looking the output and what action was taken at the end, right? So, for example, if you have a recommendation engine, right, or like looking at your prospect profitable clients and finding those by using certain model, you can at the end trace actually how many loans have been originated, right? How many deposits those new clients brought into your company, for example. I'm talking about banks. So there's ways to do it. For the call center, again, you can analyze what friction points you reduced and how many, maybe tracking and looking at the historical data if the number of calls got reduced, right, by implementing that AI. Or like, again, reducing friction points. So there are ways to do it. I think what kind of most companies not do it well still and have time, have, room to grow is basically just sit down and see how you're going to measure it. If you don't know in advance, then you won't know once you implement AI. So and then like you won't be able to kind of to justify why you spent
Maybe you could do a master class for executives to
yes, that
perform.
yes, we could do that too.
What's your framework for deciding whether AI should automate, augment, or simply inform a decision? From experience, companies just want to automate for whatever reason, but they never understand what to automate.
Right. So I would say automation should come with low risk items and tasks, right? When you can trust AI to do something and it does well, low risk, sure, you can automate it. But there's always will be edge cases. So you still need to have a human who reviews it. So you mentioned about augmenting. So again, AI can be in the co-pilot, seat, and then you are the driver, right? You kind of, looking, but still kind of, you are making the decision. And the last one, I would say, informing great. You can look, what AI is doing, right? It's a great recommendation, but you as a person and as a human kind of make the full decision. So for some, for some models, for example, it's like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. For those high risk, you better have a human and like more human oversight than AI kind of can provide. Again, if you don't trust AI 100%, don't use it, but you can automate for the low risk tasks.
Wow, you heard it here first. Now, I guess we can talk a little bit about your leadership in the past 5 years. From your perspective, how was the role of a data leader change in the last 5 years for you?
So I would say you now have more tools. AI is everywhere. So you kind of the responsibility area actually has broadened. So you now have more things to cover. There's again regulated environments. There different policies, right? So different procedures, different controls. So everything is expanding, but at the same time, the influence is kind of limited because people still view the data as a supporting function, data analytics as a supporting function. So that's to me kind of, the industry kind of has some catch up to do.
And now industries are, in the past, like during the pandemic, they overhired. Now recently they're balancing the books. I guess what for executives and leaders, when they're in this type of role as an executive leader, data leader, what impact can they make to stay abreast of these changing times?
So I would say kind of education is important, right? You can subscribe to certain things, right? Where you can learn what AI is doing. At the same time, attending those conferences would be helpful. And again, probably each company has those people who are, very close to AI who can educate if something like is not clear, right? So again, as long as leadership show interest in learning, so there's channels kind of to do it, be it like the person or some online class.
And what mistakes do you see like new data leaders repeat when trying to scale AI responsibly?
So what I've seen sometimes, yes, AI can be implemented swiftly, and there are guardrails, right? Risk controls, everything is in place. So they put it into production, but then they get the outcome they cannot explain. So that's kind of the real challenge, right? Since they cannot explain, then who would trust the results, right? If you don't know how you arrive at those results. So there are issues where regulators might ask or auditors might ask, why this result, right? And if you cannot explain, then it's not a good meeting to have.
You're pretty much violating SEC rules.
Absolutely.
So many rules to.
You need to understand. Like nothing changed with AI, right? So I mean, we had traditional amount. There was, again, OCC issued, right? The thing you mentioned. So with AI, it's kind of the same thing. It just requires more for you to do to comply with the rules.
Yes, long nights, probably. Yeah, I'm sure, like sleepless nights. If you're starting building an enterprise data science function from scratch today, knowing what you know now, what will you do differently?
So I think okay, let me think. So my data science team was created the week when COVID started. So it was, I remember Monday, whatever the date was, right? And I think everything was shut down by Wednesday in 2020. So at the time, everything was online. You would have Zoom calls or Microsoft Teams calls, right?
Yeah.
So if I had a chance to redo and where today, so what I would do, I probably would have monthly in-person meetings with every executive just to understand them more. Because I feel in person you get more hints and more ideas and just you read your executive better than having some online meeting, right, once a month or even on a weekly basis. So just to align with how they think and what they want. So that would be, I think, the right way to do it this time around.
No, that's a good insight. It's a hard transition coming from the pandemic and then coming to office here, especially in Seattle. Microsoft is bringing everybody back in around a couple of weeks in office. It makes sense. It's another transition. It's another skill to learn to be able to grow your career.
So I would advise against full time, 5 days in the office. I don't think it's necessary just from, having my experience managing remote teams. Actually, I do feel industry has some catch up to do, how you measure online, and remote performance. There's something I developed personally that worked best for my team. So everyone was engaged. You still can manage teams, and I think it's with all AI and like how you do it. So there's some ways to do it better than going back to 5 days in the office.
There are good ways and there are bad ways,
Right,
especially
right.
JP Morgan Chase. The way they do it's so different. Yeah, quick
Yeah, I hear you.
software install on your laptop. I think it's a little much. Looking back, what's one decision you change and one you make the same way again?
I would secure tools earlier. So again, from my past experience, so before the merger, I wished I actually pushed for one specific tool, more aggressively.
Mm.
Because when the merger happens, yeah, you're on this priority list and you might not be in top 10, right? The two companies have bigger fish to fry and to align two companies. So, and there's also a new process that's being created, how vendors are approved, how things are being done. So that's actually kind of extended, my time to get the tool I wanted. So one thing that I wouldn't change is around talent. So I built this high-performing data science team. So all the decisions I made, finding those diamonds within the company originally, bringing people, external people. So they were wonderful. They were brilliant. So like that stuff, I would still do the same decisions I made basically as I built the team.
And do you still keep in touch with your team? And what qualities that when you hired them for your team made your team whole?
So those are attention to detail and just, be willing to go above and beyond, not what's being asked by the business line, but always providing extra and more what you see and kind of put the CEO hat when you do your research, right? Or providing recommendations. So those people who are willing to learn and grow and try new tools, fail fast and just try again something new and just be very cooperative and working well with each other. So it's actually, how high performing team was built.
Oh, makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And what excites you most about where decision intelligence and data leadership are headed next?
So I feel I'm most excited to see better decision quality being made and it's better measured.
Mm.
So I do hope as kind of AI hype reduces a little bit, organization will start looking to bring, I don't know how the title will be called, head of decision intelligence or something else. They will sit next to roles like chief operational officer or chief financial officer. So that's for me, exciting to see. So I think it will happen at some point in 5 to 10 years because AI is moving fast. There are more decisions that's being made. But the measurement, right? Even that ROI is a challenge. So you do need to have someone at the same level as other, COO and CFO roles who kind of can, help the company to move forward. I think the quality of decisions will improve and it will affect, greatly the bottom line.
Definitely, definitely. And what's next for you? What are big plans? Anything for 2026 coming up for you, Natalia?
So this is something to be seen. I'm not sure yet. So there are some things brewing. I'm working on a few things. My LinkedIn usually is up to date, so there will be some things coming up soon. Stay tuned.
Yeah, definitely. We would love for you to come back and talk more about AI, our for our audience to learn more from your background, especially our customers. So uh, thank you so much, Natalia, for being a guest at the Orlando Insights podcast. We love having you here, and we will love you to come back.
Thank you, Henry. Thank you for having me. Appreciate
Definitely.
it.
And that wraps up our latest episodes of Orlando Insight podcast. To see more from people like Natalia, please visit us on YouTube or Spotify and LinkedIn. And any other handles for you, Natalia, social media, YouTube, do you have to share and find you?
No, I think my LinkedIn profile has all the information, so people can follow me there. So
Perfect. Perfect.
yeah,
All
excellent.
right, that's a wrap. Yeah, take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.